This is it. The great February half-term getaway is upon us. That's right, snow lovers. These next 2 weeks are the busiest weeks of the year for many alpine regions by quite a considerable margin. It's the February half-term holidays that keep many resorts afloat throughout the rest of the season. For some, the holidays have started already, but for many more, they'll be kicking off this Saturday, the 14th of February. In France, we currently have week 1 of the holidays for School Zone A, which includes much of the central portion of the country, and therefore a good chunk of the French Alps, the likes of Savoie and Haute-Savoie. And then from this Saturday, it's week 2 of Zone A and week 1 of Zone B, which includes both the north and south of the country. And this coming weekend, the 14th to the 20th of February, is also the main half-term holidays for many UK state schools. So that means that many of the airports which surround the fringes of the Alps, the likes of Geneva, Grenoble, Lyon, etc., are going to be incredibly busy on this Saturday, with Brits arriving for their annual ski holidays. Thankfully, this year, the main UK half-term holidays don't clash with the Parisian half-term holidays. Their week 1 is the following week. So at the very least, we won't have the hordes driving down from Paris combining with the masses driving up from the airports into the mountains in the French Alps. But it is still going to be very, very busy. We still have most of France on holiday this week, as well as all of the UK. And in Italy, it's the Carnival long weekend. Kids over there don't necessarily have a full week off at this time of year, but they have a long weekend, which includes Monday, Tuesday, and for some, also Wednesday. So again, combine that with all the British schools being out here on holiday this week. Certainly the start of the week in Italy is going to be very, very busy as well, especially anywhere which is easily accessed from a major airport such as Turin. And let's not forget that the Winter Olympics are also going on, so anywhere which is close to Milan, and especially up into the Cortina region, is also incredibly busy already. In Austria, we're currently in the middle of School Group B's half-term holidays. School Group A have already had theirs. School Group C is this coming weekend. So Austria, the holiday's over much quicker than they are in France, but it's still going to be very, very busy in any of the Austrian resorts, which are also popular with Brits for this coming week. And of course, let's not forget the Germans, who also have their main midwinter half-term holidays, if you will, this coming week, from the 16th to the 20th of February. Naturally, any of the German-speaking parts of Switzerland, as well as Austria, are likely to be very, very busy with Germans on their half-term holidays. In Switzerland, the holiday dates vary from canton to canton, but many kids in the Alpine regions will also be off on holiday this coming week as well. So in short, you really will not be able to escape the crowds this coming week. It's just going to be incredibly busy absolutely everywhere. But, thankfully at least, virtually everywhere in the Alps does have good snow at the moment, and there's much more snow in the forecast for the coming week. More on that in a bit. Much of the southern and southwestern Alps saw more decent snowfalls over the last 5 or 6 days. In particular, Prato Nervoso in Piemonte yet again, but also the Dolomites, just in time for the Winter Olympics. And in the Via Latia, the likes of Salsi and Sestriere, they had another great week last week. They seem to get another top-up, another 15 to 20 centimetres virtually every day throughout the week, with just enough sunshine in between to be able to get out and enjoy it. So even though officially the official base depths there are still relatively modest, they've actually been having a great season there. They just keep getting enough snow to keep topping everything up and keeping everything fresh every few days. But further north, in Austria and northern Switzerland, it has been a lot drier. And with the stronger sun at this time of year and the warmer spring-like temperatures, the snow has been softening up a lot throughout the day and starting to feel much more spring-like. On-piste conditions are holding up pretty well, but off-piste it's basically non-existent. And the snow is starting to get very slushy, particularly on south-facing and lower altitude slopes throughout the day. So while the skiing is still, broadly speaking, good in Austria, they definitely appreciate a little bit more snow. And likewise, in France, in the northwestern Alps, we really are starting to notice the heat now in between the snowfall. And there was some decent snowfall again last week, but in between those snowfalls, temperatures are heating up in the sun and more brown patches are starting to appear on some of the runs. But overall, the base depth is still really good in the northwestern Alps. So even though some of the runs might be starting to look a little bit brown, there's still plenty of snow there. It's just dirtier snow, so you're not going to be bottoming out on the dirt too much. And that brings me on to this week, and the weather which is happening as I record this right now. And it's finally the turn of the northwest Alps to receive another decent dump of snow. It's been a good 3 weeks or more since our last really decent snowfall here in the northwest, so it's definitely our turn now. And we're certainly expecting a lot over the coming days. After a few days of dry weather, the precipitation started up again Monday night. It's been snowing lightly throughout much of the day today, and as I speak now, it's really picked up in intensity. And we're not expecting it to stop raining and snowing until probably at least the early hours of Friday morning. By that point, we're expecting many areas to receive over a metre of snowfall above 2,000 to 2,200 metres, and 1,800 metres, again many areas will receive up to 80 centimetres of snow. Lower down is where it gets a bit more complicated, because unfortunately the freezing levels are going to be quite high, at least initially. Currently, right now, the freezing level in my part of France is up at around 2,000 metres, so even though the precipitation is intense and heavy, the snow line is quite high, and even where it is snowing, it's very sticky, very heavy snow, dense, not particularly nice to ski in. And yes, the freezing level is set to be dropping throughout this storm period, so things will improve. But low down, in some places, we might well lose more snow than we gain. And even up at mid-mountain, it's not going to feel like you're skiing through 80 centimetres of soft powder, because the lower layers are going to be denser and heavier and stickier. And combined with the intense precipitation, we've also got a strong westerly or northwesterly wind, which means that many upper lifts will remain closed over the next few days. But not only that, also some of the higher mountain roads, not even particularly high, the Col de Monte in Chamonix here is at about 1,400 metres. That's going to be closed for the next few days as well. Because it's not just the snowfall you have to worry about, it's also the avalanche risk, which is widely increasing from a 3 back up to a 4. And in some places they're forecasting that the avalanche risk is going to go up to a 5, extreme, on Thursday, which basically means don't leave your house. So this may well end up being one of those incredibly frustrating storms where we get a hell of a lot of snow in a relatively short period of time, but we can't really get out and enjoy most of it. Low down, below the tree line, the snow is probably not going to be particularly good quality. Maybe by Thursday and Friday it will have cooled down enough there will be some nice soft snow, but certainly to begin with, I don't have high expectations of tomorrow. And then above the tree line, above mid-mountain level, it's going to be very, very windy, which means, yes, there'll be a lot of snow, but it's going to be wind-packed, it's going to be dense and heavy because of the wind as well, and some places will be completely wind-scoured. So again, although there's huge amounts of snow coming, you won't necessarily be able to enjoy it. And then there's the extreme avalanche risk, which means that you really don't want to be getting out above the tree line anyway. So all in all, these storms can be incredibly frustrating. But it is better to have the snow and not be able to play in it than to not have it at all. At the very least, this is going to be further filling in the high mountains, covering up the crevasses on the glaciers, filling in the gullies, which is all good news for later on in the season. But for now, with this big dump of snow preceding the main half-term getaway, you're all going to need to be incredibly careful with the avalanche situation over the next week. Unfortunately, I guarantee there will be fatalities in the next week or two. The situation this season is already really, really bad, and we're set up to have more big accidents, unfortunately. It's a bit of a perfect storm. There are large numbers of fairly inexperienced people coming out to the mountains on their 1 or 2 weeks a year that they get a chance to ski, combined with a big dump of quite wet, quite heavy, quite sticky snow, and very, very crowded piste. Means that people are going to be wanting to escape into the side country and the back country without really knowing where they're going and what they're doing, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So I don't want to be the harbinger of doom, but it is just the reality that unfortunately bad things are going to happen. So hopefully, if you're watching this, you can avoid that happening to you. Keep it safe, keep it mellow, keep below the tree line, and if you don't know where you're going and what you're doing and how to properly read the terrain in the backcountry, and you don't know how to read the avalanche risk, then if in doubt, don't go. Or as absolute minimum, hire a guide. From Friday onwards, after a temporary lull in the weather and a brief much colder interlude as the polar Arctic air makes its way all the way down to the Alps, we are expecting a return to the more mobile westerlies, which means more unstable weather, more unsettled weather, more wind and more snow moving forward throughout next week. Which of course is great for those of you who are coming out in search of powder. You will definitely find some during the half-term holidays, but again, you need to be aware of all the risks and just be aware that some lifts won't run, you won't necessarily be able to get up and out where you want to go for a lot of the time when you're here. But with unsettled weather, the details are always hard to pin down beyond about 2 or 3 days in advance, which does mean that it won't be stormy all the time for everyone. There will be some parts of the Alps which will receive some nice weather moving forward into next week, but as of yet, we don't know where. We do expect everybody will see some snow at some point during this first half-term week. Just a brief reminder to anybody who is flying out to Italy for the holidays over these next few weeks, it is now compulsory for everybody skiing, snowboarding and even sledging to be wearing a helmet in Italy. That rule was brought in at the start of this season and it has been being enforced. People were getting fined for this over the Christmas and New Year period. It is also compulsory for anybody who is going into the off-piste, and that includes even just a brief side hit, to have and carry with them the proper avalanche equipment, so probe, shovel and transceiver. And again, this was being enforced over the Christmas and New Year period. people were receiving fines just simply for skiing down unopened pistes, because an unopened piste is technically off-piste. It is unpatrolled, uncontrolled, so that counts as going into the off-piste. So even if you're just doing that, you need to have all the correct equipment with you. So bear that in mind again if you are in Italy. Now this rule has existed for a while. This came in 2002, I believe, but it's definitely being much more enforced now to go alongside the new helmet rules. And for anybody visiting France, from this season, it is now illegal to smoke in any outdoor public spaces, and that includes the entirety of the ski area. So in the lift lines and on the chairlifts, smoking is now prohibited as well. Now, granted, this is France. I haven't seen much evidence of this being strictly enforced. Rules in France are very much decorative, but for the sake of everybody, just don't smoke on the slopes and on the lifts. And now for those half-term holiday snow depths. And starting down in Piemonte, where things are really quite ridiculous, Prato Novoso have an upper base depth of 300 centimetres, that's 3 metres, and a lower base depth of 200 centimetres. And yet again, it just will not stop snowing down there. They received another 10 centimetres or so of snow today, and there is yet more to come as well. Further north, in the Via Lattea and Sestria have an upper base depth of 200 centimetres, and lower base depth of 35 centimetres. They received around 15 centimetres of snow last Friday, another couple of centimetres of snow today, and the Via Lattea region is expecting another 25 to 30 centimetres of snow right now this coming week as well. Across the border in France, and Sur Chevalier have an upper base depth of 172 centimetres, a lower base of 85 centimetres. They received around 10 to 15 centimetres last Friday, and as with much of the northern and western Alps, they're expecting a major dump of snow right now, probably another 80 centimetres of snow over the coming day or two. Moving up into the Tarentaise, and the Plan have an upper base of 191 centimetres, a lower base of 50 centimetres. They received around 12 centimetres of snow last Friday, and they're expecting another huge dump of snow right now with upwards of a metre of snowfall at altitude there. Flaine and the Grand Massif have an upper base of 240 centimetres, a lower base of 50 centimetres. They also received around 11-12 centimetres of snow on Friday, and are expecting another big dump of snow right now. Grand Monte, here in the Chamonix Valley, have an upper base depth of 230 centimetres, a lower base of 70 centimetres. We received around 12 centimetres of snow last Friday, and some forecast models are predicting over 200 centimetres of snow, over 2 metres of snow at altitude this week for Grand Monte. Even more conservative estimates are suggesting well over a metre of snow, so there's going to be huge snowfall totals at altitude here this week. Moving over to Switzerland, and Crans-Montana have an upper base of 70 centimetres, but a lower base of only 5 centimetres. Being a south-facing resort, and northern Switzerland has been fairly dry recently, some of the lower runs there are clearly suffering. They received around 5 centimetres of snow last Friday, but they are expecting some decent significant snowfalls this week. Zermatt still have surprisingly modest snowfall depths, with only 74 centimetres up on the glacier, slightly more, 85 centimetres at mid-mountain and 32 centimetres down in the valley. They last received around 7 centimetres of snow last Friday, but they are expecting another big dump of snowfall this week. And Davos have an upper base of 86 centimetres, a lower base of 33 centimetres. They haven't received any measurable snowfall in the last week or more, but they are expecting around 10 to 15 centimetres this week. Moving over to Austria, and Stubai Gletscher have an upper base depth of 140 centimetres, a lower base of 40 centimetres, which is still definitely very lean for this time of year, considering they are a glacier resort. They haven't received any meaningful snowfall since the 29th of January, and they're also not expecting anything major this coming week either. Ischgl have an upper base of 60 centimetres, a lower base of 20 centimetres, and they last received snowfall on 29th of January of around 12 centimetres. Expecting a few centimetres of snow throughout the coming week, but again, nothing major. And Saalbach and Hinterglemm have an upper base of 105 centimetres and a lower base of 70 centimetres. And they also haven't received any meaningful snowfall since 7 centimetres on the 29th of January. And they're only expecting a few centimetres of snow here and there throughout the coming week. So after the major snow drought for the Dolomites throughout much of the early part of the season, it's now Austria which is struggling the most. And speaking of the Dolomites, Cortina still have an upper base depth of 100 centimetres, lower base of 56 centimetres. They received around 10 centimetres of snow last Thursday and Friday. They're expecting a few centimetres of snow here and there throughout this week, but nothing meaningful. And Livigno, one of the other host resorts to the Winter Olympics, have an upper base depth of 75 centimetres, lower base of 49 centimetres. They received around 7 centimetres of snow last week, and again they're only expecting a few centimetres of snow in this coming week. So that's all your snow depths for this week. A big thank you once again to the teams at Snow Camps Europe and Salzy Online. If you're interested in staying more up to date with the detailed forecasts of the Kaprun-Danzee region in Austria, as well as Saarbrücken and Hinterglemm, which is where they are now, then check out the conditions report from Snow Camps Europe. If you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on in the Via Latia, then check out Salzy Online. I hope you're all enjoying watching the Winter Olympics. It's great to see that they finally got some half decent snow there. It just makes it so much more of a better spectacle when everything looks like winter. So while many of the events would have gone ahead even without natural snow, having natural snow certainly makes a difference. And for everybody heading out to the Alps for your February half-term ski trips in the next week or so, I hope you'll have an absolutely amazing time wherever you happen to be going. But please, 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 keep it safe. The avalanche situation this year is really tricky. The snowpack is really difficult to read, and we've had so many accidents already this year. Please don't become another statistic. There's always next year, but not if things go wrong. So heed the warnings, read the signs, and if in doubt, of course, stick to the pistes. And to everybody, you'll be hearing from me again very, very shortly.